Guys, welcome to episode 7. We're here talking to one of our favorite people. We're talking to Nathan Fisk. So Nathan, thanks so much for having us in your house, letting us be here. I don't know if you guys know this, but Nathan was actually the person who gave us the idea to start podcasting like a year and a half ago. Okay, so shout out to you.
We didn't start it until way later.
Yeah,
it's okay. But it worked.
For the initial idea. But if you want to just introduce kind of who you are, what you do.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I'm Nathan Fisk, and what do I do? That's a good question. So my wife, Lisa, has been in real estate for 22 years. And about 13 years ago, I started in residential real estate. About 5 years ago, we went and started the second half of our business, which is land development. And kind of the short version is we went from residential real estate, which we still do today and love it, to also doing land development, which we love and is awesome. And that led us to several different other business opportunities. So now we have, and we're in the middle of launching a company that produces park model homes, which is a 400 square foot home. And that's pretty cool. And to produce the 400 square foot park model home, we're building our own steel for that. So we have a steel company that does
so cool.
all of the steel structures. So something that would normally be built in wood, like when you think of a house, it's built out of 2x4s. We're doing all of that in steel instead. It's called LGS, light gauge steel. So we have 2 machines that are from New Zealand that cost a ton of money, and they produce all of this steel. So in addition to doing the park model homes, we're also selling steel. So that's the semi-short version of what I do on a day-to-day basis, plus training and jiu-jitsu.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, we met you at jiu-jitsu when we both only ever trained at Monument, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so we've been there since it opened pretty much. We've known each other for years in training, but I actually don't know the story as to how you started training. Like, how did you get into jiu-jitsu?
Did you start as a white belt at Monument?
I did. So I started probably 6 months after you guys had started there. Maybe you had been there a little bit longer, Tommy. I'm not sure.
I think he was, yeah.
Maybe you were there for a year. So I think I'm on year 6.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. I'm on year like 7 or 8. So
I'm
yeah,
on 7, yeah. So you're 8.
Yeah.
Okay,
So I'm
that
6
right.
or 6.5, somewhere in there for me. And I actually, so the backstory of this is one of my best friends back in the day when you used to live here was the coach, the women's coach for the Olympic team for wrestling. And so I was hanging out, and he and I did business stuff together outside of that. So we were doing business things, and he was the coach, and really cool guy. His wife actually was the first woman to ever win a medal for the United States in women's wrestling.
Whoa, what?
So yeah,
that's awesome.
Shout out to Patricia Miranda.
Yeah.
She's,
Okay, cool.
Shout out. That's
bronze medal for the Olympic team.
Wow.
So I had this interaction with the women's wrestling team because they were always over at Levi's house, and we would hang out, and lots of stories there. But the short version of that is I was like, oh, wrestling, grappling, like this is the same world.
Right.
And they were all into jiu-jitsu too. So those two things, very parallel worlds. And so when my daughters were growing up and younger, they're 11 and 13 now, but 6-7 years ago, I was like, man, I really want them to be trained. I really want them to have this experience. I understood the value of it, like from a distance, but I knew it was really important. So we started both of them at the academy, and it was a good excuse for me. I was like curious and eager to try jiu-jitsu.
Right.
So I walked in without an ounce of grappling or fighting experience. I had never done any of the martial arts, really. I had toyed with a few things before, but not really.
Yeah.
And my background was in soccer and swimming. Those were my sports growing up, and I loved that. But so I started training basically at the same time they did.
Wow.
Which was a really cool experience to train with my girls, and I fell in love with it.
Yeah.
And
as everyone does.
Yep.
And went from, hey, honey, I'm going to do this a couple times a week at night, to I'm going to do this 4 or 5 times a week every single morning.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you train in the mornings.
I do.
Can you talk about why you train in the mornings versus night? Because we've talked about it a little bit.
Oh, this is an interesting question. So for me, there's a pragmatic and a philosophical reason. So the pragmatic is the morning's what works. At night, I've got kid activities. We're going to theater and we're going to ballet and trying to do family dinner and trying to do family things at night. And that's really important to us. And so going to train at night is, like, from a schedule point of view, hard. And so, but the advantage of going in the morning, I think, is it's a great way to actually start your day. And there's a lot of science behind that. That's why working out in the morning can be a really effective strategy for some people. But for me, it works from a scheduling point of view. That's the time that if I'm going to carve out an hour to an hour and a half of time, I can do it there way more easy than I could do it. And from our academy, the guys who go in the morning tend to be more consistent.
Yeah.
Nighttime is a lot more inconsistent. That's when, and if that's the time that works for you, great. Like,
right.
Go, get it in, get it done. But being there in the morning, we have a very consistent crew usually.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And it's really positive. It's a great environment for that. And so, it varies, but we'll have 8 to 10, up to 15 to 20 people every morning, and it's good.
Yeah,
that's why I train in the morning.
It's awesome.
Yeah, no, that's good. And I remember at the old academy, at our first location, you would have to get ready for work, like, at the academy, but you made the time to get in, go train, and then you just went straight to work from there, and you got all ready, and you walked out of the bathroom, like, with your suit on and everything ready to go, going to showings for the day.
Yep. So it depends. And I did that at the old academy a lot more than I do at the new location, just because of how I've altered my schedule. Mm-hmm. But it was very important, especially as a white belt. Man, being a white belt's hard. Yeah. And, when I train today, I try to have that mindset when we have white belts on the mat. And that becomes a really important thing for me. I mean, I'm not sure I deserve to be a purple belt, but where I am today, I look at the white belts. I look at the white belts and I'm like, okay, we need to, I want to encourage them.
Yeah, for sure.
When we're going through the lineup, I'm glad you're here.
Mm-hmm.
Keep coming back. Hang in there.
No, that's so important. We've talked about this before, but I hate the mindset of, like, hate on the white belts, haze them a little bit when they first start.
Mm-mm. Like, it's hard enough.
It's hard already. Yeah.
It's already hard.
So I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Cool. So I think a big thing that we wanted to talk about with you today is, like, home buying as young people. And so I guess my question is, what does it look like buying a home now as a young person, buying a starter home versus like 20 or 30 years ago?
Sure.
Because I hear this a lot in the media, like, oh, it's impossible to buy a house now, right? Or like, oh, I'm rent poor, right? You hear this term a lot, or these kind of things. And so do you feel like it really is different than it was 20, 30 years ago? Is that just the mindset thing of the younger generation? Like, how do you feel about that?
Sure. So there's some technical answers to that, and I'll touch on those. There's also sort of, again, a philosophical answer to that, right? So in our academy, we hear this phrase, you get to choose your hard. You guys have heard that before, right? You get to choose your hard.
Yeah.
Is it hard? Yeah. Is it always been hard to some extent? Yeah.
Right.
So if you look back, if we step back and look big picture, the first approach to that question, which is a good question, I think it's a valid question, is what did it look like 20 or 30 years ago? So let's look at like the 90s through the 2000s. The average income for someone 25 to 35 years old, which is sort of the bracket we're talking about. That's the first like serious bracket when people are buying homes generally. You guys are going to beat that, which is awesome.
We'll see.
No, you will.
A little insight to our personal life skills right now.
We'll try.
Just a little friendly pressure, a little friendly top pressure there. So the average income, inflation adjusted, in the 90s was $45,000 for someone in that age bracket. Today, and again, it's apples to apples because it's inflation adjusted, it's about $60K is the median income for someone 25 to 35 years old. So the income's gone up 25%. Home prices have gone up in the same time period over the last 20 to 30 years, more than 25%. And that's where you have the difference, or the delta there, is why it's harder technically to buy a home today than it was then. But it's not impossible, and that disparity has two sides to the coin. On the one hand, you're like, man, I'm 20 years old, or I'm 25 years old, and while the income's gone up over that period of time, the average income, the home prices have gone up faster. Maybe as much as double the amount of the income, right, in terms of percentages. That's been a good thing for people who owned a home. Right? They're building equity more quickly, and the opportunity in the next 10 or 15 or 20 years sits the same for someone buying a house today, right? When you buy a house today, it's going to go up faster than the income level to support that house, right? So the investment you're making pays really good dividends, right? And that's the lesson we can learn for the last 30 years is the people who made that hard choice to buy a house in the 90s or the 2000s when they were 20, 25 years old are seeing really good dividends today from that decision, even though it was really hard then, just as it is now. So that's kind of big picture. And is it harder to buy a home? Is it impossible to buy a home? Not at all, in our view. I mean, maybe I'm biased because I sell homes for a living. But we see 25-year-olds buy homes all the time. We have them do that consistently. And what it requires is discipline for a period of years leading up to buying a home. You have to make some decisions ahead of time to get yourself into a position where you can afford to buy a home. The standard home mortgage, not everyone knows this, so we'll touch on it. Standard home mortgage is you put 20% down of whatever the home is you're buying, you get a loan for the rest, right? And so for a $250,000 home, which is kind of a starter home in a lot of markets, that's $50,000. Well, if you are making $60,000 a year and you can find a way to live on, 60% of that or 70% of that, then you're 2 or 3 years of savings away from buying a home at $50,000, right? If you have a situation where you have joint income, right? So you're talking about a 25 to a 35-year-old who are potentially married, right? Then you have 60 and 60. Now you have 120. Can you live on 60? Can you live on 70? Okay, now you're a year or two from affording a $50,000 down payment on a $250,000 home. So it's not impossible, but it requires some decisions early on to achieve that outcome. And this kind of goes back to lots of things. It goes back to jiu-jitsu for sure. But it goes back to some of the questions that when I'm coaching people in the business world and having those conversations, they're like, what do you want the outcome to be? Let's start with the outcome, and then we'll plan back to achieve that outcome. And, you could go to start with why, which you have, if you haven't read the book, there's your book recommendation of the day. Start with why. Simon, I don't know how you pronounce his last name.
I know who you're talking about.
Simon Sinek or Sinek. But starting with your why is actually important thing, because otherwise you're going to fail on your 2-year journey to own a house or your 4-year journey to own a house. You won't get there. So anyway, that was a long rambling answer to your question.
No, that's a great answer.
Okay. When you say setting yourself up right for a few years to prepare yourself to buy a home, I understand that means save a lot of money. What does that discipline look like? What are those daily financial habits to get yourself to that spot to own a home?
So the thing that every single human being that I've ever met is not good at is budgeting. Maybe 1 out of 100 people are good at budgeting.
Yeah.
But it starts with a budget.
That's
not
fair.
me. Not me.
No, I've raised our hand. We're not good at that.
Oh yeah.
Neither am I.
Yeah.
I didn't buy a home from 25 to 35. Full disclosure. I wish I had. I would have been way further ahead. But that's okay. That was a learning process, and it allows me to confidently say right now, it requires hard work. It requires like discipline that is hard to achieve, and you're going to have to make some really hard decisions. So the answer is budgeting. It's the first answer. Well, what does that mean in daily habits? It means that you look at your big picture first. How much income am I making, right? And what can I do to increase my income? So I increase my odds of saving money, right? People look at it and go, okay, well, what does it look like if I delivered Uber for 2 hours a day? From 9 to 11 o'clock at night. Like that's a pretty big sacrifice, but how much income is that and how does that change my picture? But from a budgeting point of view, you start with the basics, and there's lots of resources out there to help you do that. And so you find one of those resources that works for you and use it, right? There's apps on your phone. There's, there's lots of people out there. If you're confused about it, go check out Dave Ramsey. He's got great budgeting help and advice.
Right.
I don't believe everything he teaches, but I believe a lot of it. And I would say if you're not sure where to start, just start with him, because that's a really easy box to check. He does it well. Follow his budgeting plan. You'll end up on the right side of it.
Yeah, I feel like I'm always hoping for like a hack, It's not save, it's not budget. It's like, no, I want like the easiest answer, like fastest way to do it.
So
but I know that's not realistic, obviously, and the truth is I just need to save my money.
The hack is like one of the hacks. Here's a hack. When you get paid, do you get a paper check or does it just show up in your account?
My account.
Yeah, my account.
Just shows up in your account. So here's your hack. You can set it by talking to your employer and have them send 2 bank transfers instead of 1. So if you make $3,000 a month, instead of having $3,000 a month show up in your account, have them send $2,500 to one account and $500 to the other one. There's your hack. And then you never even see it. It just shows up in the other account. That's your home account. So you can actually start with things that are like structural. That's what I would call a structural change. And that for some people makes it easier because I ignore that one. That's my savings account. And when my paycheck comes, that's my paycheck. And that's what I'm living on, because you just direct it to another account.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So from a lot of people that we've talked to, when they're making these kind of big financial decisions, like this can cause a lot of tension between like relationships, right?
Sure.
So do you have any advice like for you, like between you and your wife when it comes to these kind of big financial decisions or finances in general? Because I think that's
a huge issue.
I think it's the number one reason for divorce, right? Is finances.
It is.
So you have any advice about that?
Yes. So it comes down to communication and a plan. And it requires effort and like brutal honesty. And you have to be okay with that.
Right.
And that's actually a pretty good place to start, because if you can't be brutally honest about money, then that's going to lead to other problems, because you can't be brutally honest about other stuff that really matters too, right? How do we raise our kids? How do we do bedtime? How do we do, schooling? How do we do, values-based stuff? Like, what do we think about God? What do we think about, these things that are hard things, can be hard things, but are really important? Well, if you can't have brutal honesty conversations, it's going to lead to other problems. So the best advice that I've heard, that I have incorporated the best I can, although I'm not perfect at it, but I'll give you the optimal, is to, from a relationship point of view, is you need to start not with money. You take a big step back from that. What are we trying to achieve here? Like, what is our why? What are our goals? What are the outcomes we want? You have to agree on those, and the money follows. It's kind of like if someone starts with, and I'll circle back because I have something else on that, but it's kind of like when you start with, when I sit down with someone and they say, well, my goal in the next 2 years is to achieve this kind of income. I will tell them straight out, that's a terrible goal. Don't start with income as a goal. It's a horrible goal. Okay. The much better thing to do is to start off with because income will follow. So money follows. It shouldn't be the thing you're chasing. You should be chasing something else. You should have another why. I want to help people in a certain way, or I want to achieve this kind of other result, like a company that has this kind of structure, right? This kind of an academy that has this kind. It looks like this. The money will follow those kinds of outcomes, and so the same thing is true in a marriage or a relationship. The money will follow once you get the big picture stuff right. In the day-to-day, like the hard grind of it is having two people in charge. It doesn't work. It never works. It doesn't work in business, and it doesn't work in relationships for every category, right? Structure is important. So having a structure where you say, look, we're going to create lanes of responsibility, right? Nathan's in charge of this, Lisa's in charge of that. This is how we do this. And having those lanes of responsibility and authority is really important in any kind of structure. So this isn't just family and relationship, it's also business. And just like in business, you're going to get in big trouble if you have two CFOs. Right. It doesn't work. Right. There needs to be one CFO. And so having a CFO in the relationship is, I think, a good model. And then meeting all the time with the COO or the CEO, depending on what you want, right? However you want to structure it. But having that regular meeting to say, okay, it's a monthly check-in where you sit down and go, this is what we're going to do. This is what the next month looks like. This is where we screwed up and we're going to do better. And there's going to be constant screw ups since there needs to be a lot of latitude there.
So do you and Lisa do that? You sit down and kind of go over, this is our goal. This is what we worked on this month. This is what we need to fix.
We do. I would say that, so this year is our 20-year anniversary.
Oh, congratulations.
So February is coming up. We've created a pattern that isn't as regular, but that's after more than 20 years of working stuff.
Yeah.
So there's, it's a little different. But for someone starting off, I would say like monthly check-in.
Yeah, that makes
super
sense.
Important, right? You're going to get to a place where that may not be necessary anymore.
Right.
So no, we don't have a monthly check-in.
But that's after years of doing it.
That's after years of doing it on and off.
Right.
Right? And trying to pay attention to that piece of it. And honestly, we didn't start off doing it very well. Like we had points in time. I mean, we've been through it all.
Right.
We've been through the paycheck to paycheck. We have no money. Like we've been there. So we've been on the mountaintop. We've been in the valley. You learn a lot more in the valley. Cool.
So a lot of kids our age live, like they pay rent. They live in an apartment, or actually they live in dorms at college. Mm-hmm. So do you think renting is throwing away your money? Because I've heard this before. Go ahead.
And do you think it's throwing away your money in every case? Like, I guess the question is, when is renting the more viable option in your mind, if ever?
Renting as a long-term solution is in my view, never a great choice. It would be a really specific thing that fell into that category. Renting short-term, because you have your big picture goal in mind, can be fine. I mean, I rented for years. I understand the struggle. Here's how I'd look at it. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. One of the objections we hear from people who are buying a house today is, "Oh man, the interest rates are really high. They're at 7% or 6%. That's really high." Rent is 100% interest.
Right.
Right. That makes sense.
100%.
Right.
So if you can go from 100 to 7 seems like a really great number, right? When you're renting, you're literally paying someone else's mortgage, right? And so it's fine. You just have to understand what you're doing and be like really cognizant of, okay, I'm making a decision here, but this is money I will never see again. This is investing in nothing, right? So when I am talking to people who are on that path to buying a home and they're currently renting, I tell them, and I did follow this advice before I bought a house, which was go find the crappiest, cheapest place you can rent. Make that as small a number as you possibly can, even if it stinks, like even if it's terrible. Like, this is the lousiest part of town. My house is moldy. If the roof leaks, it's loud. I don't want to have anyone over to my place. That's fine. because you're making that number as small as possible so you can save money for what you're really trying to get to. That's my answer to that. So the answer on renting is, it's hard for me to say it's a good financial decision in any picture long term, right? Yeah. Home ownership has such power.
So can you talk about that a little bit? Because I've also heard, okay, if you own a home, yes, you're paying yourself back, but you have all these other expenses that people don't talk about, like the maintenance on the house, and when you're closing the house, the closing costs, and all these other things that people are like, well, renting, you're saving money because you're not having to pay for all these extra maintenance things and fixing the things around your house and just random stuff like that. Yep.
So great question. And the answer is, those things fall into, it's helpful to break the problem down into discrete pieces. The problem meaning the objection, right? The discrete pieces are, you have your, what we call the P&I, which is principal and interest. Okay, that's your mortgage payment. It's your principal. That's what goes to reduce the amount of money you owe to the bank. And the interest, which is the interest rate that the bank is charging you to give you the money, right? That's your P&I. On top of principal and interest, you have insurance. Your insurance is whatever it is for your home, right? For a starter home, it's probably, anywhere from $200 to $400 a month. Could be higher. That's the low end of that number. You have your insurance, you have your utilities, and then you have your maintenance of the property, which, depending on the home, can be anywhere from a couple $1,000s a year to $5,000 or $6,000 a year, depending on what you're doing, and if you're improving the home along the way, things like that. So when you break it down, the right way to look at that question is, what is your ROI? And if you want to get really technical, what's your IRR? But we won't go there because that gets more technical. But you can look up IRR online. You can do that. ROI, return on investment. So when we think about home ownership, I start, and you and we've talked about this before, but I think this is important. So if you have $100,000 and you put $100,000 in the stock market, right? Your ROI is that performance over a 10-year period. And over a 10-year period in the stock market over the last 20 years, $100,000 turned into $200,000. It about doubles in value, which is great. You didn't do anything. You put the money in the stock market, and after some time, you pull out twice as much money as you put in. Awesome. If you have the same $100,000 and you put it into real estate, the leverage that you get from that is, you take the same 100,000, we talked about this before, right? 20%, you're buying a $500,000 asset, right? Or if you have 50, you're buying a $250,000 asset. So you take your $100,000, you buy a $500,000 asset. That $500,000 asset performs like your $100,000 in the stock market. It doubles in value in about 10 years. So at the end of 10 years, you have $1 million in assets. Okay. Now, then you start your deductions off of that. How much was my cost of insurance? How much was my principal and interest? How much, like, you do all your, but at the end of the day, what you are at, rough math, but is $200,000 in the stock market and like $700,000 over here. It's still a great deal.
Right.
You still want to do that trade, mostly because of the power of leverage. You're taking 100 and you're buying a $500,000 asset. You can't do that in the stock market. You can't take $100,000 of cash and buy $500,000 of stock.
Right.
It doesn't work.
Right.
You'd have to get the same results. That's what you'd have to do. So the answer is, yes, you have other expenses that come with that, but rent is not cheaper in the big picture.
Right.
It's only cheaper month to month. The 10-year picture is, the person who buys the $500,000 house with $100,000 down is going to have hundreds of thousands of dollars more at the end of the 10-year period.
Yeah.
Right.
Does that answer the question?
Yeah, no,
Yes,
100%, 100%. It does,
okay.
yeah.
Totally. So I wanted to ask kind of a different question. So, and we've talked about this a little bit, but do you have any kind of like interesting ways to form deals for like young people when it comes to buying a house. Like let's say you don't have the money for a down payment, right? Or like you can't find a starter home in your area that's $250 or something like that, right? What are some other ways to do it? I know we've talked about like the duplex thing. We talked about like roommates, and what are some other strategies for young people for buying a starter home?
So there are some hacks, but it's really very situational, right? So there's the easy hack, which is the bank of mom and dad. But I wouldn't throw that one away. Like sometimes there is a deal to be had with mom and dad, even if someone who's listening, they look at them and well, they're not, we're not multimillionaires, we're not sitting on all this money. Yeah, but mom and dad could potentially co-sign for a loan, right? Mom and dad could potentially help with a little bit of money as a loan to get you all the way to enough money to buy a home, right? Sometimes there's a way to even borrow money against a retirement account. So if mom and dad have some money in a retirement account, you could sometimes borrow against that and apply it to a loan and then pay mom and dad back, right? There are things like that you can look at. So bank of mom and dad, bank of aunt and uncle, like it's in my world, we call it private money. It's a private money finance play. And so I'll mention that because for some people that could work. The other option is your offset, right? So how many roommates can I stick in here? How does that look? The one that I think I would focus on that maybe not enough people look at would be the partnership concept, fractional ownership. Okay. Fractional ownership is when you look at, you and your group of friends, peers might look at it and go, look, none of us can afford to buy a home on our own, but maybe three of us with our combined asset value and our income and what we've saved, we could buy a home together. So then you have three people going in to buy a $300,000 home. Well, now each person only needs to have $30,000 or $20,000 to make that a possibility or a reality, which greatly lowers the bar. Now, it also it changes your outcome, right? Because now when you sell that house in 5 years, you're splitting the proceeds 3 ways instead of just taking it all on your own. But it's way better than not doing it at all, right? You're still, the math still works. It's still good math. The math doesn't lie. So for a lot of people who are in that younger category, 20 to 30 years old, creating a partnership can be a hack that actually works great. And it takes a little effort. Like you got to find a couple of friends who are being diligent in their savings, who have some of the same goal structures you have. You need to put together a partnership agreement, right? But if you can get through a few of those obstacles, this can be a good way to buy a home. Personal story, the way we got into land development was this exact way. So people say, well, how many homes do you own, Nathan? Well, I currently own one, but I own a bunch of land that we did the same thing on. The difference between land and a house is you just need to know more about the market to do the land version of what we're talking about doing for a home. And because I'm in the business, I know a lot about land, so I can do it there. But the process is identical, where me and 4 partners went and bought a piece of land. The way we did it is the final hack I'll mention, which is an owner carry. So we only brought half the money to the table. The owner of the dirt that we were buying carried the note for a year at a really low interest rate. Don't tell him. We paid him off a long time ago. He's good. But we structured a creative deal. We went to the guy who's trying to sell the land, like, hey, you can't sell your land. So we're going to offer you less money than what you were hoping to get for it. And you're going to carry half of the mortgage. You're going to be the bank for a year. And that's how we were able to get that done. But it took me, with limited resources, I was able to get that deal done. And now we have flipped that like multiple times. And it's been really good.
I know you've been telling us for years, like, buy a house, do it. What are you doing? Don't wait, buy a house.
Cool. Well, so let's talk about the life principle that we see here that enables some of the creative strategies we just talked about. We've all heard this now multiple times, but the 5 people who are closest to you, that's who you're like, right? There's a professor we both know who may have mentioned this at some point in time.
Shut up.
The people you surround yourself with are going to be the avenue of which you can do some things that are creative. So if there's nothing wrong with having a friend group that is your own age and your own income, some of those are going to be great, and some of those relationships are going to carry you forward for 20 years, and they're awesome. But one of the things that I just stumbled into is I ended up, working professionally at a really young age. And so I was surrounded by people who were twice my age from the time I was 14 to the time I was 24. Like, there was this huge age discrepancy there. But I became like them fast and learned from them fast, quickly. Proper English here. So the encouragement I would have for anyone in this age category is don't just hang out with your own age group. Go find people like, I don't know, folks at your jiu-jitsu gym maybe, who are older and wiser and have more resources and have, because that's where you're going to find opportunities that you would have never seen before. So just as a reminder, look around, find the 5 people that are closest to you. You're becoming like them, and running in those circles will accelerate your growth.
Yeah. We're so lucky to know you at our gym. Like, this is why we started this at all, is because we're so lucky to be around such amazing people at our gym, fathers, mothers, professionals, business owners, everything. And it's so great that we get to talk to them all the time. And I don't think everybody gets that opportunity. So that's one of the biggest reasons that we started this, was to get the chance to talk to those people around us who have done the things that we want to do.
That's right. Outside of just like a mat chat that we can have for 10 minutes, right?
Right.
That's kind of the idea.
Well, you guys are doing great. And my encouragement to you is to keep pushing. Like, keep searching out your why, keep searching out the outcome, keep searching out where we're going with this and what the plan is. The failures are going to be there. And this goes right back to jiu-jitsu, right? We all love to compete, all three. Well, on different levels, all 3 of us like to compete.
In different ways.
I would actually argue you're at one of the higher levels in this table, because I feel like when we talk about competition results, you've had some of the best.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, legit, you're one of our best competitors.
100%.
Well, you guys have both done extraordinarily well. Nathan's last year of competition was not awesome.
Okay.
You guys got to see his blue belt worlds run.
Oh my gosh, that was insane.
That was nuts.
Insane.
Here's what we learn, right? We learn that failure is not just part of the process, maybe it is the process. Like, how many times have we, and this is now where definitions become important, right? Is losing failing, or is losing learning? That's so trite, and we've heard it so many times, but there's like real truth in it. But to reframe it a little bit, as a white belt, I started competing because Nathan's an idiot and loves competition. And I did not win at white belt, hardly anything. I think the one match I won at white belt, I was standing up with the guy and we were white belt, like just holding on to each other, moving around the mat. And I tried to sweep him and he had a bum knee, and like he broke his knee. Have you heard this story?
No, what?
Oh yeah, no. So on this poorly executed sweep, I broke the guy's knee, and I'll have to tell you. Yeah. Shout out to Mike. Sorry, Mike. He's a really cool guy. I didn't know him beforehand, but but he's a very cool guy. He actually runs like a fight gym, and he's a really cool guy. But he was a white belt at the same time. And bigger than me. He was like 50 pounds heavier than me at the time for this white belt competition. Anyway.
But you swept him.
I swept him, and I won that match, but I didn't really win that match. Yeah. That's the point of the story. But there's a lot of failure in that, right? Like, I started competing as a white belt, kept competing as a blue belt, still competing as a purple belt. But in competition, I have lost way more matches than I've won. And on the mats, even when I'm working really hard, I'm consistently learning a lot.
Yeah.
And the same is true in your process right now, right? So whatever your endeavors are, like of the 10 things you're going to try this year and work at this year, not all of them are going to work. And the encouragement across the board is you just that's fine. That's great. Just keep going.
Yeah.
You know, so that's where, you know, as I look back at my businesses, like right now I have what's hopefully going to be a successful steel business, hopefully a very successful tiny home business, and a currently very successful, thanks to my wife, real estate business. Just credit where credit is due here, just to be very, very clear. But where I'm at with those businesses is because I could sit here for an hour and tell you of all the business failures I've had, like significant failures in business and things that have led up to this point where things seem to be going really well, but it's because of these lessons I've learned for 20 years, 30 years. Jeez, I'm old. So
you talked about you bought this land with different partners.
Uh-huh.
I think choosing the right partner has to be a very difficult process.
Mm-hmm.
And it's probably, I would assume, well, it is. It's very important to choose the right person for that, because they could screw you over, or, you know, the money couldn't work out, or you don't know what they actually have. Like, how does that work? How do you choose the right person for that situation? That's a huge deal to go into something like that with somebody.
Partnerships are very, very hard. So I'm going to throw a sidebar in and then I'll answer the question. The sidebar is, in a business partnership, one of the most important things you can do is to pre-orchestrate your divorce. This is how we're going to dissolve our partnership. When this fails, here's what we're doing to go our separate ways. And we're going to agree to that when everything is nice and awesome and we're excited about it. But we're going to figure that out today. That is not personal advice for marriage, because I'm not a fan of pre-orchestrating that. But in business, it's 100% the right decision. Every time. So that's the sidebar. The answer to the question is 100% about values. Period. End of story. From a personal point of view, I think that if you're going to be successful in life, you really need to have your physical and your mental and your spiritual all very important and all really aligned and all things that we're working on. And I've learned that the hard way. Short version. I used to be 240 pounds. I used to be broke. And I used to have values that I thought I knew what they were, but I really didn't. And my spiritual life sucked. So getting those three things in alignment for yourself is really important. Once you feel like you at least have a handle on those things and you're paying attention to them and being proactive and intentional in those three areas, then you can have a partnership. And then what you're looking for in your partnership are people where you go, are we in alignment on these three things? And if we are, now we can have a conversation about having a partnership. And that's how you're going to have a successful endeavor. How you find that out? It's time. It's time on the mat. Right?
Yeah.
The mat's really truthful. Better spend some time with that partner before you embark.
Yeah.
I was going to ask about your new tiny home endeavors.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about
fun.
tiny homes except for what I see on like TikTok at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
That's all I know about tiny homes. So I'd love to know like who's buying these? You know what I mean? Like,
who are you building them for?
So the name of the company is Myticus, which is Mytikas, which is, from a branding point of view, not the best name because I have to spell it. Otherwise, you don't know what it is.
We'll link it in the description. Right? Like, it'll be
There you go.
And we're just launching. Like the prototype will be done in a few weeks, and by another 3 months, we'll have the production line open and we'll actually be producing these things. I have to tell a little bit of the story, but I'll try to keep it short. The reason we started this in the first place was because we are doing a land project where we need tiny homes. That's part of the plan for developing this land. So we went out to look at the market to say, hey, can we buy some tiny homes? and there are 3 major manufacturers, and they all build like the least expensive, like the lowest quality possible 400 square foot home that you can imagine. Like they're crap, basically. they're built with the cheapest materials, with the cheapest labor. Fill in the blank of what that means. Like, and they have a terrible warranty and all this stuff. So we're looking at it, and we're trying to build what is going to be like a premium luxury property. We're like, well, we can't put that product on this property. So what are we going to do? So our first thought was, well, we'll just do like a temporary factory on site, build these homes, place them, and then shut the factory down. Well, I'm going to skip over like 9 months of stuff. Fast forward to the place where we're like, no, this is actually like a real business. But the real business is we're going to build the highest quality, like the best version of this 400 square foot home. And we can do it at a really competitive price still. It's more expensive than the crap, for sure. But it's a buy once, cry once scenario. And it's a quality product that has a 10-year warranty instead of a 9-month or a 0 warranty. And it looks great, and it's going to look great 3 years from now versus looking like a trailer park. Short version. So who's buying these, and what do they look like, and why, and all that? The market for these are people who want a tiny home as an ADU, which would be an accessory dwelling unit. It's like you have your main house, but you have a big enough lot that you want a guest house. Like that's one of our markets for it. Another market would be someone who's running like a campground or a resort, and they have cabins at this resort or villas, right? So we'll sell these as villas or cabins at resorts all over Colorado, 9 western states. Like there's lots of resorts and places that need these. And then a third category would be for workforce housing. So there are lots of places we're familiar with, like Breckenridge or Vail or Aspen, where they have, the average cost of a house there is just so insane and high that all of your workers, like all of your ski lift operators, all of your servers, all of your cooks, all of your cleaners, all of your blue collar guys who are working on things, and construction guys, like they have no place to live. They're driving an hour to get to work. Well, having a 400 square foot really quality home that doesn't look like crap a year after you place it is a huge value to these communities, because they can actually put them in places, put people in them, and they know that it fits within the aesthetic of what they're trying to achieve in some of those towns. And so workforce housing is another place that we're seeing huge inroads. We have one of the ski resorts, the guy who owns the resort is super excited about our product. He flew out on his private jet. He's the 3rd largest ski owner operator in the country.
Whoa.
And he's gonna buy a bunch of these because he needs a place to put workers, and he wants to take care of them, and his heart and his goals are in the right place, but the economics of it work, the zoning of it works, all the technical details work out. So those are 3 categories of who buys them. They start at basically a couple $100,000, like $225 for the entry level unit, and they go up to $350, $375 for the like ultra premium version of this thing, the Cadillac, the Porsche.
So, sweet. Yeah. Awesome. Well, we're coming close to our end time, so I think we could kind of end on a question like this, which would be, if you were to kind of like turn back time and you were like 20 again, and you had all your wealth of real estate knowledge, right? Like what play was...
In this time, in this age.
Yeah, and you're also now.
Right now.
What would the play be?
So if I was 20, 22 years old, however, 18 years old, today, with all the knowledge I have, that's the question, right?
Yes.
Okay. I think it's a hard question. I think the answer, the short answer is I would fight and scratch and claw to buy something, whether it was land or a house or something, is to find a way to invest my money rather than spend my money. So every time I have $1 in my hand, am I spending it or am I investing it?
Right.
And to find a way to scratch and claw towards that. And to be more disciplined about saving faster if I had saved, when I was 18, I went and bought a brand new car, which is because I was making way too much money. I mean, when I was 18, just to put this in perspective, I was 18, which was a really long time ago. I was making almost $100,000 a year, which that was those dollars.
That's crazy,
That's
right? And it seemed, I look back, I'm like, that's nuts. And it was only for a couple of years that I was making that kind of money, but I went and did really dumb crap with that money. I blew it all.
So the financial IQ didn't meet the amount of money you were making.
Right. So if I was to rewind time, even if I wasn't at that place where I was making really good money for a couple of years, I would say whatever that discipline, I would be way more disciplined. I would shackle myself to the discipline and make it happen. And the genuine answer is I would have been doing jiu-jitsu when I was 18 years old.
Yeah, right?
Full circle. That teaches, I think, kids discipline in a way that's very hard to duplicate in any other environment. I'm thankful for what I went through, like super thankful, because there's no way I'd be the guy I am today without all of the mistakes I've made along the way. So there's no short circuit to it. But the best advice I have is take a step back, think of the outcome you want, and figure out how to get disciplined about what you're trying to achieve. That's the best advice. That's way easier said than done. So then the thing you referenced earlier, Mari, is what are the things, the daily habits that go there? Start small, right? What can I do today? I can automatically have my paycheck go to a savings account. And I'm going to take my friend Mari and I'm going to put her on the savings account. So I can't draw money out until she signs it too, right? Something crazy like that where Mari goes, well, wait a minute, I have to sign on this for you to withdraw money. And now I can keep you accountable, right? You can start doing like little things that take you down that path. So start really small, start really manageable, and read a crap ton of books.
That's great.
Awesome. That's fantastic
Thank
advice.
you. Thank you so much for joining us. This was very helpful because I just think the media and us scrolling at 11 p.m. at night, just seeing all this random stuff about you should do this and you shouldn't do this, everybody's all over the place. So thank you for sitting down with us and kind of honing in what we really need to take home from all of this information that we see online. So thank you.
We appreciate your guidance and your friendship over the years. It's
Yes,
been awesome
it's been
to not only learn from you, but also to train with you. It's been super cool.
And compete with you.
That's right. Yeah. So we look forward to more of that.
How old were you when you started?
I think I just turned 12.
I was 13.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I've known you since you were 12 or 13.
Yeah.
And a little older for you.
I'm so lucky. I just have all these dads and brothers like that have raised me over the years. It's great.
No, we're super blessed for that.
So lucky to have these connections. So thank you so
You're
much.
very welcome. I'm proud of you guys.
Thank
you.
you.
Keep up the good work.
Thank
Alrighty.
you.
Is there anything else you want to plug at the end of the episode
Yeah,
here?
let's do it.
Your company or anything like that?
No, I mean, if you're local and you need to buy a house, check out Fisk Team. That's our residential team. If you're looking at steel or tiny homes, I would say Miticus. MiticusIndustries.com is our website, and we'd love to chat with you. But my only plug is your product brand, which I'm not wearing my shirt or my sweatshirt or my hat right now. But do you guys refer to it as LVL or level? Or how do you?
We say both.
You say both?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's my plug, which is like super high quality stuff, and it's awesome.
Thank you,
you.
Nathan.
We appreciate it.
All right. Thanks so much.
You bet. Thanks, guys.